0.6% of Americans are overweight or obese. That's not body positivity, that's an epidemic.
Okay, number one, if you really gave a rat's ass about obesity in America, you would be advocating for universal health care so that more people can go and see nutritionists. You would be advocating for a higher minimum wage so that we don't have so many people living below the poverty line who can't actually afford good, nutritious food. You would be advocating for better protections for federal workers so that we could have a better work-life balance in this country and more people actually had the time to exercise. You would be advocating for better education funding and more nutrition education in schools. You're not doing any of that because you're not actually interested in health. You just want to fat shame people. Number two, one of the goals of the body positivity movement is to help people build more confidence and more acceptance in their own body. Research shows that fat shaming people is a completely ineffective way of getting them to be healthier. And that fat shaming, all it does is tear down their confidence and make them want to eat even more and is counterintuitive and completely unproductive. In addition to just being fucking mean. And number three, your numbers are bullshit. Those numbers are based on BMI data, and the BMI is an old, antiquated, completely inaccurate measure of health. It doesn't take into account muscle mass, so a lot of bodybuilders are actually considered very overweight. Despite the fact that they have very little fat on their body, they're just very, very strong. It was based on white Europeans, and it doesn't take in the differences for race. Stanford did a study in 2020, and it found that a healthy weight for Black women is actually higher than the standard BMI chart. The BMI is racist and sexist and useless. And you look to be someone who's in fairly good physical shape and looks relatively strong. And so I'm willing to bet that you probably know this. Because unless you have scrawny little chicken legs, then your BMI is probably fairly high if you're a relatively muscular person. When I was in college, I had a year where I got really skinny, and guess what? My BMI was still technically above average. It wasn't in the overweight section, but for as thin as I was, nobody would have ever guessed that my BMI was that high. I've always had strong legs, and it was a very inaccurate measure of health. And FYI, there are tons of people on this app, fitness people, who are nothing but encouraging and are great to listen to, like this guy, who don't body shame women and actually yell at other men for body shaming women. And I guarantee you that people like him have done 10 times more to encourage people to be healthy than you ever will.